Everyone in the tech world is now talking about AI agents. But what exactly are these AI agents? Are they actually going to change the way we work? And can you make these AI agents without any coding or a technical background? Welcome to the Cutting Edge School enabled by the 01 Network by Zerodha. I am Ansh Mehra and this is episode 1 of our beginner's course on agentic AI using N8N. In chapter 1, I'll quickly revise the basics of AI agents and N8N and answer all the questions that you as a beginner would have about the subject. In chapter number 2, I will show you an AI automation that our team has built for research and scripting and the benefits and use cases of working with such AI automations and agents. In chapter number 3, we'll have a step-by-step tutorial of how to build this AI automation for your business or content. By the end of this video, you will be able to create your first N8N automation and actually understand how AI agents work. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, even though we've taught the basics of agents in our previous AI agents course, let's quickly revise the foundations. Let me first explain you what is an AI tool. An AI tool is like an app that uses AI to do specific tasks. For example, ChatGPT is an AI tool that can take a prompt for you, understand it, and give you an output. Midjourney is another AI tool that can convert text into images. 11 Labs is an AI tool that can convert text into realistic voices. But AI tools alone cannot really achieve an outcome for you. You always use AI within a certain workflow. So if you're working on something, it's not like an AI tool can instantly solve problems for you. You first create a step-by-step instruction of what you need to do and then have an AI tool be a part of that workflow. So now the question is, what is this workflow? Let's say that you're working on an Instagram reel and you use multiple tools one after another to make this reel. Now this sequence of steps will be called a workflow. For example, you might write a script using Google Documents. Then you would turn that script into a voiceover using 11 Labs. And then you would take that voiceover and create a video using HeyGen. Now this entire 3-step process would be followed by your team again and again. And this 3-step process can be called a workflow because it is a chain of tasks done in a specific order to repeat a certain goal again and again. Now in this workflow, Google Document is a normal tool, while 11 Labs and HeyGen are AI tools, which means a workflow can be a sequence of tasks achieved with certain tools. These tools can be AI or they can be non-AI as well. Now comes the smarter part, automation. What if my team has to write a script every single day at 12 p.m.? What if I want an automatic workflow that will take the script, instantly send it to 11 Labs and instantly send it to HeyGen, because the entire process is pretty repetitive, right? What if I don't want a human being to be involved in this entire chain? When a workflow begins without manual human effort, that workflow becomes an automation. For example, what if I have a workflow where anytime I paste a prospect's email ID, my ChatGPT gets the email, gets the context, writes an email, and then opens up my Gmail to send this same person a custom proposal. Now in this workflow, I am the one who's pasting the email and explicitly asking this workflow to get started. Now this starting point, me clicking to start this automation, is actually called a trigger. Every workflow needs to start with a trigger. When this trigger is automated, a workflow becomes an automation. Now the question is that what is an AI automation? If your automation is functioning with some AI tools sitting in the middle of the flow, the automation suddenly becomes an AI automation. For example, a normal automation would send the same welcome email to anyone who fills up this onboarding form. But an AI automation would first check who has filled the form and then write a custom welcome email personalized to the person and then send them that personalized communication. Now all of these things were taught in utmost detail in our previous course. This was a very quick revision where I quickly skimmed through what is an AI tool, a workflow, an automation, and an AI automation. But I have still not explained what is an AI agent. Now, the surprising part is that different people on the internet are defining AI agents in different ways. In fact, agentic AI and AI agents are also very different things. This course is on AI agents in N8N. So I will explain you what these AI agents are, considering the fact that we use them in an N8N automation. When you make a workflow inside N8N, you basically create nodes that talk to each other. Now, these nodes can be of all kinds. One category of these nodes is actually an an AI agent, where you can connect your own ChatGPT account or any other AI account and use AI inside your workflows. Now, I know this might be sounding complicated and intimidating in the beginning, but once you watch this entire video, things will become super clear. The bottom line is that AI agent is a node that sits inside an N8N workflow, and this AI agent node requires three important things. Two of them are not mandatory, but one of them is. First is the chat model. This is the mandatory one, where you need to connect a specific AI model that will supply the intelligence to the AI agent. Your AI agent is going to be a dead robot without this AI model being connected. So how do you connect your AI tool to this agent? That is something that we will cover in chapter number 3. The second part of this AI agent is memory. Now, this is not necessary to add as a beginner, so we will cover this later on in the upcoming episodes. The third thing your AI agent will need are tools to work with. So when an AI agent thinks about something, what if it has to do something with a specific tool like a Gmail or a Google Sheet? So those tools can be added as extra functionality, almost like hands to your AI agent. But as a beginner, even this part is not necessary. The core idea that I want you to take back home is that our workflow will feed something into this AI agent. This AI agent will have some instructions that will be used to run actions on that information, and in the end, this AI agent will spit out an outcome as well that will later be used for all the other nodes that come after it. Now, even though I've said this before, you do not need to know coding to build AI agents using N8N. In fact, if there are certain parts where you have to use code, ChatGPT alone can help you fix those problems. Now, let's come to pricing, because most people have a misconception about N8N's pricing. Now, N8N's starter plan costs 24 euros a month, which is approximately 2400 rupees per month. And this plan is good enough for a beginner who comes from a non-technical background. If you are a developer, you can learn how to use N8N on your local host, and non-technical people can just completely ignore when I say the word local host. But for technical folks, if you deploy N8N on your local host, you can use it for free as well. But all of you, whether you're a technical person or a non-technical person, anybody who wants to use an AI agent inside N8N has to buy a separate AI subscription, because N8N helps you create a workflow. To put an AI agent inside the workflow, you need some intelligence, right? And that will only come from a separate subscription. It can either be ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. So apart from N8N, you need to separately purchase an AI subscription, either like ChatGPT or Claude, because N8N is not an AI tool. Most people think that N is an AI tool. No, it does not even give you access to AI models. There's a 14-day N8N trial, by the way. It does give you some free OpenAI credits that can be used to run a practice workflow, but for professional purposes, you will need an OpenAI subscription. Now, once you sign into N8N, you will be redirected to the dashboard. To create an automation, click Create Workflow on the top right corner. Now, any workflow, no matter how long or complicated or small or short it may be, it can be split into three parts. The first part is the trigger, and this is usually a single node. So I can't even say that it's a part. Every workflow needs to have a trigger, so it's just one node. The trigger is what starts the workflow. It's like when someone rings a doorbell and you get up to open the door. The doorbell is the trigger because it tells you when an action needs to be taken. The second part of the workflow acts as the filter. Now, anytime you fetch data, you have to figure out what to do with this data, right? What data will be used, what data will not be used, what data goes on X side, what data goes on Y side. So all of this process of analyzing and understanding where is this data coming from, where do we send it, all of those nodes put together can act as the filter. So most people think that filter is a single node, but no, a part of the workflow is the filtering process. The last part of the workflow will consist all the actions, because once you have gotten all of the data and you have filter sort of doing its own thing, you still need to perform some actions, right? So if you've gotten data from YouTube API and if you filtered it out, you still need to send it to either a Google Sheet or to a Gmail. So this is like a very basic overview of how exactly a workflow looks like and what are the different parts. In the next chapter, I will show you a very basic N8N automation that can take a YouTube video URL from a form and automatically upload all the important information about its stats and performance on a Google Sheet. It's almost like creating your own mini YouTube studio. But before we move ahead, let me tell you how you can take this foundational knowledge and also invest in expert mentorship that will help you get a certificate directly from IIT M Pravarth Technologies Foundation. If you want to learn advanced AI agents in a guided and organized way, then you can check out the Advanced Executive executive program in Applied Generative AI by IIT M Pravartak on Simply Learn. This course is designed to teach you real-life applications of generative AI. You'll get more than 70 hours of live online classes by industry experts with masterclasses from faculty and alumni from IIT Madras and other top IITs. You can also stand a chance to get support for your startup through IIT M's incubation program. You'll get the chance to build real-world AI systems using ChatGPT, Azure AI Studio, and Hugging Face, and to learn how to deploy custom AI agents using the MCP framework. This course also includes 3 capstone projects and hands-on learning designed for engineers, analysts, and AI beginners looking to upskill in 2025. At the end of this course, you will get a certificate directly from IIT M Pravartak Technologies Foundation within 90 days of program completion, and you'll become eligible for a 2-day campus immersion at IIT Madras Research Park. To be eligible for this program, you need to have a bachelor's degree with an average of 50% or higher marks. A basic understanding of programming concepts and math is also recommended, and it's preferable to have 2+ years of professional work experience. Simply Learn is reviewed by Forbes Advisor and has earned top ratings on platforms like SwitchUp and Course Report, and has helped thousands of learners grow their careers with expert-led programs. One feature that makes this program even better is Simply Mentor, a GPT-powered assistant built into ChatGPT, which you can interact with at any time for doubt solving, brainstorming, or planning your next step. You can explore the full program through the link in description or the pinned comment. But for now, let's get back to understanding the basics of N8N and our first research automation. So your learning path needs to look like this. First, learn how to make an automation, a very basic automation without any fancy AI tools. Then you learn how to make an AI automation, because when you make an AI automation, that is where we will plug in our first AI agent as a part of that workflow. Most people think that AI agent is this, workflow is this. No, a workflow becomes an automation can be an AI automation, and when you create an AI automation, AI agent sits in the center. Now the interesting part is that the internet has all kinds of definitions of an AI agent. I've heard definitions where they're actually calling the entire AI automation only as AI agent. But from an N8N perspective, the node is called the AI agent. Everything else is a part of the AI automation. So let's first learn the basics of N8N. So now we will make an automation that gets a YouTube URL from us, creates an HTTP request, fetches the data from YouTube's API, and uploads that information to a Google Sheet. If all of this seems very scary to you, especially if you're a non-technical person, don't worry. I will be explaining everything step by step. In fact, in our next episode, we will make a proper AI automation where a script is actually converted into an AI generated video. But for now, let's understand N8N and the core components that we would be using for the creation of this automation. Remember, right now I'm just going to explain you the logic of this automation, and if things seem a bit difficult listening, you can always follow the steps that will be shown in chapter number 3. In fact, we will also be sharing the documentation links in the description from all of our videos, and you can actually copy any part of that documentation and ask ChatGPT to teach it to you as if you're a 10-year-old. So that's a pretty fun hack. Now when you log into N8N, by simply clicking on this create workflow button, you would be directed to a screen where you will be able to add your first node. When I click on this plus icon, it asks me to create a trigger. A trigger is something that will initiate this workflow. This is the building block of any workflow, because this trigger will start the workflow. Now we have a lot of options to choose from, and for this specific workflow, we would use a trigger which is named as on form submission. This trigger will work when we submit the form that has been created by N8N, and I will show you that in chapter number 3. Next, for our project to work, we'd have to use an HTTP node. Now an HTTP node is something that helps you connect APIs to our automation. Now what is an API? Let me explain APIs with a very simple restaurant analogy that we have already covered in our previous courses on AI agents, but let's just do a quick revision. Think of an API like a waiter in a restaurant. Here is how the entire process between customer, order, and kitchen takes place. You, the customer, wants to order food, but you can't just walk into the kitchen and start cooking yourself or talk to the chef, right? You need someone to take your order to the kitchen. Now kitchen is almost like the server or the database that has all the ingredients, and it can prepare any dish, but the chefs don't want random customers walking in and disrupting their work. So now comes the waiter, who's actually the API. This waiter, who is the API in our case, is the middleman who takes your order in a language that you understand, which is English written on the menu items, and it translates it into a kitchen language for the chefs, because chefs might have their own way of calling those items or whatever it may be. Once the waiter, which is the API, takes your request and goes to the kitchen, the chef understands the request and gives the API the final dishes. So to summarize, you are the main customer who is requesting the information. The kitchen, in our case, is the YouTube server where all the video data is stored, and the waiter is YouTube's API, the system that lets you request that data. When our node wants YouTube video data, it can't just hack into YouTube servers. Instead, it politely asks YouTube's API that, hey, can I get the information about this specific video? The API then takes this request to the kitchen servers and gets the data and brings it back into a structured format. So now that we've revised what is an API, let's understand why do we need them in the project. So for us to pull the data from YouTube, we need APIs to get that information, but someone needs to search that information as well, right? This work is done by web scrapers, and Apify is one such service which brings us these scrapers, some of which are free to use and others are paid. Now Apify is a full stack platform for web scraping. Think of it as an app store of data extraction robots. Instead of building your own web scrapers from scratch, Apify is a marketplace of ready-made web scraping tools called actors. Think of it this way. What if you want data from YouTube, LinkedIn or Amazon? The old way would be to hire developers to build custom scrapers and actually read all of the data one by one. But using Apify, you can choose from thousands of pre-built actors that already know where to go and how to extract this data. So here at the Apify store, we have countless actors that can help us scrape LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Google Maps and whatnot. In our YouTube research automation, we use Apify's YouTube actor built by API Doja. Now this actor already knows how to navigate YouTube and handle their anti-bot systems and extract video data. We just tell it what to search for and it returns organized data for us. Now the issue with N8N workflows is that your N8N workflow cannot directly access external websites. This is where our HTTP request node comes into the picture. It is because of this node that we can fetch information from Apify into our N8N workflow. The HTTP request node in N8N is your workflow's messenger to the outsider world. It's what allows your automation to talk to any website, API or online service. When our automation needs data from Apify, the HTTP request node sends our scraping request to Apify servers. It then waits for the response with all the YouTube video data and then passes that information to the next node in our workflow. So to summarize, here is how our first automation will work. You will simply paste a YouTube video link into a form. You will click a button and within seconds, all the extracted data will appear in a neatly organized Google Sheet that we have created. If all of this is clear, now the first step is to add a trigger. Now there are different kinds of triggers available on N8N. For example, there's an on-app event which are triggered when you receive a text on WhatsApp or Telegram. Then we have manual triggers which are scheduled when a specific person actually manually triggers it. There's scheduled events which work at a particular time. But here we will select an on-form submission trigger. We have to fill in this form by adding the title and the form elements and add the field name as please enter your YouTube URL. And then we would test this if it's working or not. To test this, simply click on test workflow. This is what we get. A form to input our YouTube URL that will eventually trigger our automation. Now, when you input this data, you'd be able to check the output from this trigger as soon as you submit the form. Here in N8N, we can view the data in a JSON format, schema format, or table format. Look at this. Here we have the form submission time and the form mode, which is a test. If you scroll up, you'll be able to see that we are using the testing URL. Hence, the form mode is test. As you can see, we have two options, prod and test. Now, here is something important about N8N. It's built on GitHub principles. Just like GitHub, where you need to push code for changes to be saved, we need to save our workflow or it could just vanish. There is no concept of auto-save in N8N. So always remember to save your work. Now, let's move on to integrating Apify for our YouTube scraping. So we have a YouTube link which is going to be shared to Apify and Apify will scrape all the data and give it back to us. The scraper that we will use is going to be created by API Dojo. And it's super powerful because it can fetch all of this YouTube data very easily. Now look at the options available. We can input start URLs, YouTube handles, and their query wizard. Now the query wizard provides very extensive customization where you can search by topic and video duration and country and language and all kinds of things. For our project right now, we'd be using the maximum number of items on output inside the query wizard. Everything else can be empty. So I am going to fire up YouTube and grab the URL of one of our videos. I'll paste this into the start URL field of our Apify scraper. This creates a static API configuration that will help us generate the JSON structure that we will need later. For testing purposes, I'm limiting the number of outputs to 10 because you don't want to hit the API limits while you're building and testing your workflow. Now let's move on to a critical step, switching to JSON mode. Here is something important. We need to move from manual input to JSON mode in the scraper. This JSON structure will be crucial for our automation. This is nothing but code which APIs can understand easily. And these key value pairs are nothing to be afraid of. If you look at the line number 7, this max items is the number of outputs we had changed to just 10 a few minutes ago. Now the N8N is ready and the Apify actor is ready. So now we need to connect them and make them work together. And for that we use APIs. So let's move on to Apify's documentation. The link to this will be in description. Now APIs have various methods like get and post and put and delete. But for now we'll be using the post method, and within post method we'll be using run actors synchronously with input and get dataset items. Now let me explain what synchronous means using our waiter example. When you place an order with a synchronous waiter, they take your order to the kitchen and literally stand there waiting until your dish is completely ready. They won't leave the kitchen. They won't serve other customers. They will wait until chef prepares finishing your meal and then bring it directly to your table. So you get your food at the fastest rate possible, but that waiter is completely occupied the entire time. But here's what happens asynchronously. The waiter takes your order, hands you a receipt number and walks away to serve other customers while the kitchen prepares your food. You'd have to keep checking back with that receipt number to see if your order is ready. So now while you are waiting, the waiter can handle other tasks. In our YouTube research automation, we want the synchronous approach because we need our data as soon as we can. So we'll send our request to Apify and our workflow will wait right there until all the YouTube video data is extracted and ready for us. No checking back, no multiple API calls, just one request that runs complete results. This is exactly why synchronous works perfectly for our automation. We get instant, complete data extraction without the complexity of hitting the request again and again. So I am going to use a bearer token to generate an API key from Apify. So let me navigate to the Apify console and grab that token. We can create a new token or use an existing one. Now I'll paste this pre-existing API key here in our Apify documentation, and this would help us create a curl request. Now this curl request will then be used in N8N. Now don't worry if you are confused about curl, I will explain this in just a few minutes. In fact, I've added a document link in the description with this curl request ready-made so that you can directly copy paste it into your HTTP node inside N8N. But please note that you'd have to replace your own Apify token in N8N. But let me still explain how curl really works. Now curl stands for client URL. It lets you send the HTTP request directly from your terminal or your command prompt or from your N8N automation to the person that you need your data from. Think of it as typing web requests instead of clicking through a browser. So the question is, why does it even matter? It matters for our YouTube research automation because instead of manually filling out all the API connection fields in N8N one by one, which is the URL, the headers, the authentication and a bunch of other stuff, we can simply copy a pre-written curl command from Apify's documentation, which I will show you in just a bit. Next, I need to copy the actor ID from the YouTube scraper that I showed you earlier. This ID identifies the specific scraper that we want to use. And now our curl request is ready except for one single part, the body. Remember the static API that we had given to create a JSON in the YouTube scraper? We will use that JSON in the body of this API. So now our curl request is finally ready to use. Now we'll copy this curl request and head back to our N8N workflow. Now here at N8N, when I click on the HTTP node, this is what I see. The get method. Now look carefully and you'd find an option to import a curl request. This is where you can save significant time. Instead of manually configuring every field, I'm going to use the JSON that we created earlier and implement it through my curl request. And if you're unable to follow the Apify steps, don't worry because we have the curl request pinned in a top comment as well, and the documentation link is also there that will help you understand all of these steps. Now this approach lets us use the HTTP request node in N8N, which enables direct direct API calls. The beauty of N8N is that we can directly import curl requests, which saves us from manual field configuration. Now this curl helps us with automated field population. When I paste this curl request into N8N, watch what happens. All the fields get auto-populated automatically. All we need to do is add our bearer token from the Apify console to the authentication field, and that is the only field that we will have to populate. Now once this is done, check the JSON and you'd find that the start URL is static, and what we need to use now is a dynamic one, from which, and this URL is something that we will get from our form, which was the trigger. So I will delete this and drag and drop the please enter your YouTube URL from the input into our start URL. Now we need to check whether this flow is working or not. So I will click on test workflow. Awesome, everything is working. We're receiving the data as expected. If you click on the table tab, you can see that we're getting a lot of in-depth data like likes and comments and channel and almost everything we need for content analysis. Now to get started, we will first create a Google Sheet, and just for simplicity, we'll create certain columns. So these are the columns where we will have all the information ready. Once the file structure is ready, I will go to N8N to set up the Google Sheets integration. Now before starting anything, let me show you how to set up the credentials and why do we need to do this in the first place. So credentials are like built-in API keys that connect N8N to external servers. For this project, we will need the Google Sheet API, which is already built into N8N. So back in N8N, I will click on the plus icon and search for my Google Sheet. So the most important step here is to introduce the Google Sheet node. Once you introduce the node, the second step is to actually connect your Google account with your N8N account. So you'll have to click on the credential to connect with and then create new credential. You'll have to sign into your Google account, and now N8N would be able to access all the sheets on your email ID. Now this is so easy because Google Sheet is built right into N8N. Otherwise the steps that we would have followed for API scraper, we would have to do the same thing for Google as well. So now we have to configure the Google Sheet. So we'll use the append row option and then find our Google Sheet from the drop down list. After selecting our sheet, you can see that all of our columns are populated here, whether it's the title, the URL, the likes and the description. Now here is the best part about N8N. We can drag the input data into these columns under Google Sheets. For example, in the values to send field for title, I'll click on the title and we'd be able to populate the field very easily without having to type in the JSON format. Now let me do this for all the other fields. Once this is configured for all fields, I'll click on test step. Awesome. You can see that the fields are populated successfully. So now we have a Google Sheet that automatically gets populated with in-depth YouTube data for any URL that you paste in the form. Now I know that you might face a lot of issues while you're working on this. My tip to you would be to take a screenshot of the error, go to ChatGPT and ask it to fix it for you. And trust me, it does a very good job. This was episode 1 where I just wanted to introduce the basics of N8N and a trigger and a node and how things are being connected, and at least showing you how Apify works. In the next episode, we'll build something even more advanced. So I really want you to watch this video 2 times so that you can follow everything. And there's a very high chance that it will not work out in the first attempt. And that is where you need to learn how to take a screenshot, put it to ChatGPT, get feedback and fix it yourself. Let me know in the comment section if this video was useful, and if you want more such agentic AI videos, please make sure that you click on the subscribe button and the like button, and I will see you folks in the next episode. I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra, and you are learning from the cutting edge school enabled by the 01 network by Zerodha.